I know Reiko by reputation as a reliable mercenary. Confed had been offering creds to bolster their ranks, and she took the pay, but I think it wasn't a matter of money to her. I think Reiko saw it as a noble cause despite her feelings towards the Confederation. She brought up the Confederacy of Earth, the 19th century slaveholders who went to war. Maria, we were the good guys. We didn't mean it like that. She was an orphan, so she earned points from me there. Before Confed, she was on a colony where the law enforcement there had become fascist. Like Judge Dredd, the old comic, so I'm told. Couldn't know if Reiko was familiar. She was a fan of these old vids. A vampire with a soul, trying to save souls. His name was Angel. I could tell she couldn't wait to suggest I watch it, given my call sign. I could see he was influenced to become a better person. I could relate. Not from her perspective, perhaps, but I really wanted to become a better person than I was before, on first joining the Claw. More patient, more tolerant. Once upon a time I would have executed traitors out of hand, like Reiko had been known to. I very nearly did to Todd, when a stupid stunt he did got Ruzi killed. One would argue that the Confederation needs more mercenaries or at least pilots who think like Reiko. She justifies execution as a means of saving more lives. Still, she can be reasoned with. Hear people out. I order the self-professed executioner to bring in a traitor alive. Reiko will keep her word.
Given the length and breadth of her experience, I'm glad Captain Francesca is on our side. Just all in on the cause, if not to Confed, were the stories to be believed. Carlita supposedly died when she tried to defend the Sky Bridge. That was a wormhole that informants came to us about. So the story goes Carlita was supposed to kill the pilgrims who had the information in order to keep it a secret. Instead, she chose a more combat-orientated role, going after the Kilrathi directly before they could find out. It was discovered years later when trying to liberate Kilrathi slave mines, and on the trail of Mandarin traders that Carlita survived. But combat had destroyed her voice. She was the XO to Major Kryza, who turned to science outside of Confed to rebuild it. Even paid out of pocket for surgery to restore her voice. The question of where the money came from led to rumors. Everything from pay for betraying Confed to raids on alien gold were suggested. Fact is, Kryza was kind-hearted enough to do that, so Carlita's voice could be restored. I heard the stories myself of how special projects and Black Ops would utilize triple agents. Operation Solitaire. Project Funnel Web. The atrocities committed to prevent the Kilrathi from obtaining uranium and nuclear materials. I wasn't ignorant to the idea that the Confederation was squeaky clean, and as noted, whatever injuries Carlita suffered, it did nothing to dilute her viciousness. It seemed to be almost a requirement to be a member of those alpha units, an unhinged disregard for the laws and customs of war. In fact, there was an incident during Thor's Hammer that shows we could teach the Kilrathi how dark we could be. Perhaps it's time for people to know the story.
Petya Tylovich was the Ukrainian lieutenant who was assigned to the Concordia once we had exposed the traitor on board. She was perhaps best known for her family in the 21st century fighting their way through Eastern Europe, hitting traffickers of people, children along the way before fleeing to America. One of them joined the legendary Manhattan Ladder 18 Fire Department. Another, on Russia invading their country, returned to try and assassinate the president. He did execute his political enemies after all. Petya, from how she asked a lot of questions about Zach Corson, about Mariko, and how Thor's Hammer and the Siva bombing Goddard was related, showed she had not just that tenacity, that commitment her family was known for, but a genuine interest in the Confederation. This was shown where, after promising to keep the details she learned to herself, was placed on the flight roster. Unlike some recruits, Petya didn't complain about her assignments. She was eager, but not overly aggressive. Calm, upbeat in the cockpit, and she flew very close to her wingman, maybe a little too attached. When asked, Petya explained she wanted to be there to protect who she flew with, and also not to have them distracted by flying off. She elaborated that her flight lead should not pay attention to her. Petya felt she should be able to take care of herself, or not, she shouldn't need a babysitter. Better they not worry about her. By flying close, Petya believed it alleviated that concern.
I heard stories of ferocious Karen Fisher, the Mexican lieutenant stationed on the TCS Harbinger. I wasn't there, but story goes a Super Hornet was blocking the flight deck because its transport broke down. Repairs were underway, but the deck needed to be cleared. We could have just pushed it, but that would have damaged the craft. That was when Karen went to try and lift it enough by hand to be wheeled clear. Even when engineers turned off the artificial gravity, she wasn't strong enough to lift the fighter. And we're talking someone who lifts weights comparable to Confed Navy SEALs when the opportunity presents itself. Her attempting to help out made several other fighters aid her, and they were able to move the Hornet aside. Just one of many examples of her tenacity. I would see this for myself when I requested pilots for the Austin, and Fisher was transferred to my ship as a result. Confed wanted us to conduct a bombing on a Kilrathi base, one that may have been developing weapons. This is a task we needed much heavier gunships for, except we didn't have any. We also had a strict timeline, so we couldn't get the right tools for the job. We had to do the best with what we had. Mission was to use up all ordnance we could for the assault, but to Karen, she explained in her debrief, that meant everything had to go. Once all her missiles were used up, she kept up the assault, despite the order being to withdraw once she was out, wanting to cause as much damage as possible. And once the guns ran dry of energy, she went to touchdown planet side. Lord only knows why. My best guess is what she was thinking was using her sidearm to kill a few more Kilrathi. I had to order her back to base, but it was clear to me that when given a task, she will see it through.